today about Sage Alerts and Workflows. And we're going to be joined today by Don Farber, who is the co-founder of Vineyard Software, who actually designed and created this product. We have a couple clients that are using this. Suzanne and I found this a very interesting product. It actually helps your software work for you instead of you working for your software, which is, our #1 goal around here. So with no further ado, I am going to turn this over to Don. Don, would you like to take over for me, please?
Why, I sure would, Sue. Thanks very much, and good morning, everyone. Before I continue, Sue, if you'd just like to confirm, can you hear my voice coming through?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Fantastic. Nothing I like worse than talking to myself for about half an hour, although I've been known to do it. So again, everyone, thanks very much for attending this morning. My name's Don Farber. We're going to spend the next half an hour or so talking about Sage Alerts and Workflow. We're going to divide that into about 3 sections. The first will be a fairly brief PowerPoint overview. What is the technology? How are folks using it? How it's licensed, priced, etc. From there, we'll jump into the product so you can have a look and see at it, how it works, how you can configure and customize it. And then finally, we will leave time at the end for Q&A as well. What I would ask, a couple of housekeeping options. #1 is if you have a question, do feel free to post them in the chat session of the GoToWebinar window so that we'll be sure to take those. And of course, you can also save them till the end. But use that chat window to communicate with us. Also, one personal note, as I go through my talks, I typically do grab a quick sip of coffee now and then. So if you have a few seconds of silence coming from my side of the phone, it's just me grabbing a quick bit of caffeine. So a little bit of background about us. Sage Alerts and Workflow, it was created by my company, Vineyard Software Corporation. We've been around for actually just over 15 years now. We just recently passed 12,000 organizations worldwide using this technology. I should also mention when it comes to these slides, I tend to touch upon a couple of points on each slide, but I trust that you can read them as well as I can read them to you, so you won't hear me narrate every word on a slide. The application is actually officially classified under the heading of Business Intelligence, a subheading called Business Activity Monitoring. I love analogies, and really what this application is a smoke detector for your business data. You put it into your IT department, you tell it to keep an eye on Sage 100, and as we'll see, any other applications that are of importance to you, and then you basically turn it on and leave it alone, and I'll talk about some of the things that it can do. To get your mindset thinking about alerts and workflow, I do like you to ask yourself the following question. During your everyday business activities, have you ever felt like saying, if only we had known? If only we had known that this particular customer was so far past due, we would have done something about it. We would have proactively called them. We wouldn't have sold them additional products or services. If only we had known that this typical good customer of ours who purchases month after month after month at a certain level, all of a sudden, we've gone 45 or 50 days, we haven't heard from them. Or maybe they did place orders with us, but placed orders for a lot less than they used to. This is really the heart of what alerts and workflow is all about. I also refer to this as the V8 moment, when you kind of hit yourself upside the head and go, man, if only we had known we could have done something about this. Now this initiative is actually referred to as making your organization more data-driven. As Sue referred to in her introduction, you shouldn't be working for your software. Your software, Sage 100, should be working for you. So gosh darn it, if a customer is overdue in their invoices, you shouldn't have to run reports and queries to go and look for this. If it happens, have a system that simply says, oh, we're 45 days past due, or whatever number of days is important to you, and have the system automatically resend the customer copies of their invoices. How about having the system automatically tap you and your sales rep on the shoulder and say, hey, this particular customer is far past due. You need to call them and get them to pay up. Now, one of the reasons why I'd like to bring up this slide is that the italicized part of all of these lines over on the right, you'll notice it's not just about alerts. And that's why we call this application Sage Alerts and Workflow. You know, if an order has excessive discounts, we don't want the order to go through. Yeah, we can tell someone about it, but it would be even better if we could actually put the order on hold and resolve that issue before anything further is done. So let's drill down a layer deeper into the solution, Sage Alerts and Workflow. It starts out by monitoring your Sage 100 application for any business conditions that are important to you. And that last phrase bears repeating, any business conditions that are important to you. Out of the box, Alerts and Workflow ships with roughly 85, that's 85 pre-configured business conditions that it's going to sit there and monitor for and respond to, including all of the conditions that you see on the current slide. When we jump into the application, you'll see even more than these, but it's important to note any business conditions. There are a bunch of pre-configured events, as we call them. You can use those, customize them, and create an unlimited number of additional events of your own. Now, although we are focusing today's conversation on Sage 100, it's worth noting, do you have a CRM or sales application like Sage CRM or Sales Logics or Microsoft CRM? Do you have an HR or human resource solution like Sage HRMS or applications from other vendors or even homegrown applications? Alerts and Workflow can monitor conditions in those applications as well. So again, we're focusing our conversation on Sage 100 today, but this is truly an enterprise-wide monitoring and response solution. And in that vein, Alerts and Workflow has a rather interesting optional component called email monitoring. I always like to ask folks, do you have generic email accounts like info@, sales@, support@yourcompany.com? What happens when someone sends an email message to one of those accounts? Or are those generic email accounts simply black holes where emails go, very sadly, to die? Alerts and Workflow can automatically watch for those incoming messages, can see who they're from, what they're about, and who they need to be forwarded to. Alerts and Workflow can even auto-reply to those incoming messages and supply requested information. Now, I made mention a couple moments ago of monitoring Sage 100, but also monitoring an application like Sage CRM or a human resource application. Look at this scenario. How cool would it be if you had a system that could say, hey, we just got a new sales opportunity entered into CRM. Let's go over to Sage 100 and let's find that corresponding client record. Let's see what their current AR balance is. Let's add that balance to the forecast new probability to see if that new total would put the customer over their credit limit, because if so, we want to notify the sales rep to say, hey, stop trying to sell this customer additional products or services and instead focus on getting them to pay down their existing debt, because this order is simply going to be held up by finance if you try and put it through. We refer to that as cross-application monitoring. Two minor monitoring capabilities I'd like to touch upon quickly. One is the ability to use Alerts and Workflow to monitor your operating system. Heck, you're using it to monitor everything else. Why not use it to tell you when a user has let their email box fill up, or when a server has dropped below 10% of free space, or even if someone's trying to break into one of your servers. Now, when we talk about alerts, I always like to say an alert is only as good as its ability to reach its intended recipient. So if you've got an invalid email address, if your email server is down, if you have an invalid cell phone text messaging number, Alerts and Workflow can detect that and actually fail over the alert. It can notify an alternate party. It can notify someone in IT that an alert did not get successfully delivered. So now let's talk a bit more about those alerts. They can be sent out via a number of different methods, and certainly email is still the most common alert delivery method. We always get asked, well, what email systems does Alerts and Workflow support? It's a good question with an easy answer, all of them. Microsoft Outlook or Exchange-based email, including Outlook 365 or hosted Exchange. Internet or SMTP-based mail systems, Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo Mail, again, all supported. But that's only one of your alert delivery methods that you can choose from. I personally love getting an instant message either on my cell phone or on my desktop that basically just jumps in front of my face and gives me that visual clue, holy cow, I've got something going on I need to look into. And then often I'll use email to contain additional details about the condition that has occurred. It's important to note that all of these alert delivery methods are included with alerts and workflow. You don't have to purchase or implement any additional hardware or software. Now, when it comes to sending an alert, yes, a text message to a cell phone is nice, an email alert is nice, but sometimes what you need to send to someone is a form, a document, a detailed report, or even a graphic. For example, customer who has overdue invoices, you know what I really want to send them? I want to send them a copy of those overdue invoices. Possibly I want to send them a copy of their statement. If a customer is overdue, I'd probably like to send their sales rep or account manager an AR aging report for that client so that the sales rep can see just how overdue is this customer. Is it over 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, etc.? And as you've heard in the past, sometimes indeed a picture is worth 1,000 words. Why send me a 2, 5, 10, or 20-page report when you can just as easily, well, more easily, get the point across with a nice chart or graph, whether it's a bar chart, pie chart, line chart, etc. And we'll take a look at one of those in action. The last component of alerts and workflow is the workflow part of it. When we say workflow, we mean something very specific. We mean the ability for the system, alerts and workflow, to go back into Sage 100, or for that matter, into any other application, and actually add or update records. For Pete's sake, if we've got clients who are overdue, when they get overdue, let's have alerts and workflow put that client on credit hold so no additional orders are allowed to be placed for them. Or for that matter, if we do put a client on credit hold in Sage 100, if we're also using a CRM application, it would be really nice to actually schedule an activity like a phone call in the CRM application for the sales rep to call the customer and try and resolve that credit hold situation. Alerts and workflow can update information in databases, in applications, using a variety of methods. Some of them are wizard-driven, and some of them are programmatic in nature, so you can also do custom integrations if you need to. Okay. Now, this all sounds, well and good, but like everything, is well and good also affordable? And I think in this case, you'll see the answer is yes. So, alerts and workflow is not licensed per user. It doesn't matter how many people you have in your organization, how many Sage 100 user licenses you have. Instead, alerts and workflow is really licensed according to what you're monitoring and what you want to do in response to conditions proving true. That was a bit of a mouthful, so let's see if I can do that better by starting at the top of this slide. Let's say that you want to monitor Sage 100, that's one application, for an unlimited number of conditions. You want to make use of the 85 pre-configured conditions. You want to add additional events of your own. Now, in the Sage 100 space, I always get asked, what about multiple companies, Don? Does that monitor one application cover one company or all my companies? It covers all of your companies. It doesn't matter how many companies you have. So you want to monitor Sage 100. You want to alert lots of people, your staff, customers, prospects, suppliers, partners, all of these people, and you want to notify them via all the methods I mentioned, email and fax and text message and web dashboard, etc. For that functionality, you would be looking at a one-time purchase cost of just under $1,800. Again, that's a one-time cost. Now, there are annual maintenance and support fees of about 20%, just like all apps that get added to that. You have a couple of options, which are shown at the bottom of the slide. One is the ability to trigger reports, the delivery of forms and documents, and the generation of graphic alerts. All that comes under the heading of the reports module. Without the reports module, you can send alerts, you can send emails and faxes and text messages, but you don't have the ability to use things like invoices and statements out of Crystal. You can't have alerts and workflow run your AR aging report. You can't have it generate a bar chart or pie chart. All of that capability resides in the reports module, which is a one-time cost of just under $1,000. The other optional module is the actions module, or workflow. This is where you're able to say, I want alerts and workflow to write data back into a database. Some folks like that ability. Others say, well, we don't need it, or perhaps we don't need it yet. That module also by itself, a one-time cost of just under $1,000. It is worth noting that if you add those two components together, meaning that you want both the reports module and the actions module, we actually lop $500 off the total price, so they can both be had for $1,500. The only other option you have is to say, hey, I love this. I want to use this to monitor Sage 100, but I've got some other applications, a CRM app, an HR app, a homegrown app. I'd also like to monitor one or more of those. How much would it be to monitor, for example, my CRM app as well? Well, we try and make it easy. It's an additional $17.99 for each additional application to be monitored. However, once you hit 4 applications being monitored, we automatically grant you what's called an unlimited connection license, meaning that you can monitor every single business application you own today or ever will own, as well as monitoring incoming email and even your operating system. So with this pricing, you might be interested to find out or to learn that the average payback period or return on investment for clients who have purchased alerts and workflow comes out to 88 days. That is based upon between 1,100 and 1,200 survey results from existing clients who are using the technology. In fact, many clients completely pay off their investment in under a month. Often it's just 1 or 2 events that pay for the entire technology. One of my favorite client responses when interviewed about alerts and workflow, he said, it just works. You install it, configure it, turn it on, and walk away from it. It might interest you to note that I mentioned we just passed over 12,000 customer organizations worldwide using this technology. We actually get an average of 8.5 or 8.5 customer support calls a day. So that really does speak to its set it and forget it type of technology. Speaking of technology, let's have a look at it. So I'm going to jump out of this PowerPoint. I'm going to jump into the application. But before I continue, let me just check with my colleagues once again. Sue and Susan, am I still coming through loud and clear?
I hear you well.
This is fantastic. I always, as I said, love it when I'm talking to someone other than myself. Great. So alerts and workflow. It is a server-based application. What that means is that you typically install it on just one system, one machine in your IT environment. Alerts and workflow does not need a dedicated server. You could put it on your Sage 100 server, on your Exchange server, on your SQL Server box. You can even run alerts and workflow on a remote machine, a PC or laptop, which is actually what I'm running it on for the purpose of this demo. Let me just get rid of my little Skype message that just told me my colleague is in her office. Okay, so a couple more words about the technology. Number one, what Windows operating systems does it run under? Again, easy question, all of them. Alerts and workflow also stores its own data in a choice of 3 different database formats: Microsoft SQL Server, SQL Express, or Microsoft Access. We often get asked, well, why Access if you already support SQL Server? The answer is so that you can easily download and try out the software yourself without involving your IT manager. So you can download it, install it, it stores its data in an Access format. You can try it out, see if you like it, and then if and when you decide to purchase it, you have the option, a one-click migration from Access to full SQL Server or SQL Express. Now, I mentioned that alerts and workflow runs as a Windows service. What that means is that you tell alerts and workflow what types of business conditions you want it to look for. And you may recall I said there are over 85 pre-configured conditions. These are just some of them. Let's bring up a little shorter list here of the events that we're actually running. So you can see here, for the purpose of the accounts receivable module in Sage 100, I'm looking for a number of different conditions. Before I take a closer look at one of these conditions, I just want to mention, you can see over on the left, some of the other modules within Sage 100 that we're looking for specific business conditions within. We're even looking at some other applications, Sage's HR application, some third-party or add-on applications. And I'm going to save these Trend 100 events for the very end of my talk as well. They're kind of cool. Okay. Let's take a look at a given event. You know, a situation that, sad to say, most customers like yourself, like even myself, do run into on occasion, and that is when our own customers don't pay for their invoices on a timely basis. So you can see here, I've got an event called Invoices Overdue. Every event consists of up to 5 components, and you can see them shown to the right. The first of those components is telling me whether or not the event is active and if it's scheduled to run. Now, this is showing me that the event is active, but it doesn't have a schedule, so you know something? Let's give it one. So I'm just opening up this particular event right now because I want to give this event a schedule. Oh, we do have a schedule daily at 9 a.m. That seems about right. Let's make sure that it's active, and let's save and close this event. And let's shrink it back down to its component parts. And there we go. Now we've got our event showing a frequency of daily at 9 o'clock. That is running every day at 9 o'clock. Notice something called repeat is turned on. When this event ran this morning at 9 a.m., it sent out certain alerts. Now, tomorrow at 9 a.m., when it's scheduled to run again, if some of those invoices are still overdue, they haven't been paid, do you want to send out another round of alerts? Well, in this case, absolutely yes. I want to continue to pester someone until those invoices are paid off. Now, how does Alerts and Workflow know that an invoice is overdue? How does it know that certain business conditions exist? It knows that through its query. This query is looking at invoices that are overdue, and people always ask me, Don, do I need to be a programmer to set up these queries? Do I have to write SQL syntax in order to identify these conditions? And the answer to that question is no. You're not running any kind of programming language, but you do need to be familiar with the Sage 100 database schema. In plain English, you need to know what data sits where. And I guarantee you, if you don't know what data sits where in the Sage 100 database, that your business partner here in the persons of Sue and Susan absolutely do. In fact, they probably know this stuff in their sleep. But just to show you a quick glimpse at how this works, we're telling Alerts and Workflow that we want to retrieve data from a few different tables, including our Open Invoice table. We're able to pick and choose individual fields of data that we want to retrieve from the database, like the invoice number, the date that it was created, the invoice's due date, etc. If we wanted to, for example, total up all of the past due balances per customer, per sales rep, per region, I can just choose the appropriate arithmetic function right from this list. Have you ever wanted to count the number of days that an invoice is past due or the number of days until an invoice is due? Well, Alerts and Workflow has a little calculation wizard. So I can just go to the appropriate calculation and say, I need to calculate the difference in days between two dates. And this wizard will walk you through that calculation. Again, no programming necessary. I'm going to jump ahead 2 more tabs. In order to identify an invoice that's overdue and that has a balance, I need to look for 2 conditions. The first of those is looking to see if the invoice balance is greater than a certain amount. Now, everything here is available in plain English from drop-down lists. Maybe I want to hard code this value to say $0 or $100, $500, $1,000. I can do that, or I can leave it open-ended so that I have the power to specify what is my dollar threshold. And my second triggering condition here is looking at the invoice's due date to make sure that the due date is less than the current date. That's what tells me that the invoice is, in fact, past due. Let's test this query and see what results we get. Let's say invoices for more than $500 for an outstanding balance. And we can see our invoice numbers, the date of the invoice, the due date, all back in 2010. I should say they're past due. And if we scroll to the right, the invoice balance and any other fields of data we wish to retrieve. Good. So now what do we want this event to do? Well, first and foremost, we probably wanted to send out some alerts, email, fax, pager, instant message, etc. All of these alert delivery methods are listed here. If you want to see them in more detail, just a matter of going to the appropriate branch and double-clicking or choosing Edit. And here I am now in my instant message alert, my pop-up message, which is simply going to show me that my customer has an overdue balance of, and it's going to show me what that balance is. all of the fields from my Sage 100 database can be put into my alert message. And as you can see them listed here once again in plain English. If we take a look at this event, though, we can see, yes, we are configuring a number of different alerts to go out via different methods. We actually have a chart that's being dynamically generated. This chart is showing me the overdue total invoice overdue total per sales rep. And we'll have a look at that chart in just about a minute or two. But remember earlier I said, you know, if a customer is overdue, what we really want to send them is a copy of their statement. And here we're doing so, and we're specifying that the format of that statement has got to be PDF. Okay. So we have a number of different alerts configured, a number of different alert messages. We're even generating a template for a dunning notice that can be sent off to our customer. Of course, we haven't yet specified whom we want those alerts to be sent to. Here, I'm notifying everyone in my finance group via both email and instant message. Myself, I tend to prefer getting these types of alerts via email. But you know something, if you think about it, who are the two most important people to notify when invoices are overdue? It's the customer and it's the customer sales rep. And we refer to these as dynamic recipients because obviously that customer email address, that sales rep's email address are going to change based upon which invoices are in fact overdue. And finally, the workflow or actions part of this event. Do I want this event to trigger some updates, perhaps, in some other applications that I might be using? Do I have some custom programs or integrations that I wish to execute? Maybe I'm working with a collections agency and they say at the end of every week or maybe at the end of every month, please deliver to them a comma-separated file of all customer invoices that are overdue so that they can start initiating collections with those delinquent clients. So you've had a look at how an event is configured. Let's take a look at how the alert message looks. So I'm going to jump over into my email client. Let's drop down a couple of branches here, and let's open up this particular alert message. And let's make it a bit bigger. Let's, in fact, even make it full screen. So the following customers have invoices that are overdue for payment. Nice, crisp-looking grid here showing me, as you can see, customer details, their phone number, invoice number, due date, balance, etc. Notice that the customer contact name as well as the salesperson contact name are shown in blue, meaning that they're clickable links. You want to pop off a quick email message to that contact about their past due balance, you can do so directly from here. Notice that this alert message sent to me from Sage Alerts and Workflow has a couple of attachments, including that dunning notice template I mentioned earlier. But personally, my favorite attachment is the chart. So let's open up this chart. I'm on my email client here, which makes me go through a couple different security settings to make sure that I'm opening up the right tool to view this chart. Here we go, my overdue balance per sales rep as of today, a little bit earlier in the morning. I do have a lot of overdue sales that are associated to customers with no sales reps. I'll tell you right away, that's a little concerning. But then I can see my other sales reps from Sage 100, and certainly at Susan May, close to actually over $500,000 of outstanding overdue invoices. We definitely need to have a chat with her about getting her clients to pay on a timely basis. So I want to jump back into alerts and workflow just for a moment, and then we'll open up the lines for Q&A. We talked about the fact that there are these 85 or so pre-configured business conditions. That includes the Bill of Materials module within Sage 100. Some very critical conditions, like simply making sure that you have enough components, enough items in stock to fulfill the Bill of Materials requests that are in process. Monitoring inventory levels, purchasing. Let's stop off next over in sales orders. Let's see what we've got here. You know, one of the capabilities of alerts and workflow that I don't think I mentioned is its ability to tell you whenever someone has changed the value of any field in Sage 100. Now, naturally, you get to specify what those fields are you want audited. But here's a great one. The item promise date has changed. If someone changes that promise date, we darn well better make sure that the customer is aware of it. We better make sure that the sales rep is aware of it. We also better make sure that our shipping department is aware of it too. And then I did say I'd save this for last, these trend alerts. You know, it's funny, when you say alert, you don't really think of automated trend analysis, but how cool is this? Let's take a look at one of these. The third event down here is an event that runs at the end of every month. And what it does is it looks at each customer to see what each customer purchased for the month just ended, and then this event goes and looks at the customer's average monthly sales based upon the preceding 6 months of activity, and checks to see if any customer sales have dropped by at least 30% versus their average sales total. And let's just take a quick look at the alert message. I'm going to go over to our email alert message. By the way, you can actually just cursor over one of these branches and get a quick glimpse at the alert message. But just to make it easier for us all to see it, let's open it up in its own window. And there we are. The alert message down at the bottom. Hello, salesperson name. This customer has placed orders for the previous month to date that represents a decrease of at least 30% over their average month. And you can see 4 fields of data: the customer's last month order total, their average order total based upon that scrolling 6 months of activity, the dollar drop, and the percentage drop. And this is going to get automatically delivered to the sales rep who's responsible for this client. You know, automated trend analysis to me is absolutely gold. I just love the idea of a salesperson automatically getting an email or some other delivery that says, here are your clients who have significantly changed their buying habits. You know, hopefully they're buying a lot more than they used to, but perhaps they're also buying a lot less. And you'll notice that we actually have 4 branches over here for these Trend 100 event packs, as we call them, looking at sales by salesperson, by customer, and by items. And we're even dividing salesperson, looking at both orders versus invoices to give some additional visibility there. All of these event packs are provided to you at no additional cost. They come with alerts and workflow. And I'm up against my 30 minutes, so I'm going to say one last thing, and then we'll open up the lines for Q&A. Alerts and workflow has a very nice online audit trail. So what has Alerts and Workflow done so far today? Well, earlier today, it ran an event looking for overdue invoices. It took less than 1 second of processor time to run. Alerts and Workflow is incredibly efficient. Did we send out any alerts? Yes, we did. We sent out 4 alerts. Let's see whom they were sent to and whether they were successfully delivered, and if so, when. Well, this event triggered an email alert to me. It also triggered the creation of a file to be delivered down to my collections agency. What I really love about the monitor of the module we're in right now is it will actually tell me whether the alert was successfully delivered, and if so, when. From an IT management perspective, this is just wonderful. So when someone calls up and says, I never got XYZ, you can actually come in here and say, well, as a matter of fact, you did. It was sent to you at this time, on this date, and this was the format in which it was delivered. Okay. I did promise to keep this to about 30 minutes. According to my clock, I've gone 1 minute over, but I'm not going to disappear or change back into a pumpkin quite so soon. So, Sue, let me turn the proceedings back over to you, and we can take any comments, questions, etc.
Well, I appreciate that, Don. I'm looking here. Right now, we do not have any comments either in the chat or in the question box. But if you guys come up with anything, feel free to email or call either myself or Suzanne, and we can get Don involved. Or if you would like a personal demo, Don would be more than happy to do that for you and talk about your issues, problems, or alerts that you want to set up for yourself. Also keep in mind, as he did mention, some of us do have third-party programs that run other aspects of our business, and his product will pretty much implement with almost anything out there, but we would have to discuss that with him first. So if you have any questions, like I said, give us a call. and we'll be happy to talk to you about it. We do have a couple customers using this. This is not a brand new product. The Vineyard Soft has been partnered with Sage for many years, but a lot of folks just weren't ready for it. But I think that a lot of you guys are now. The business is picking up. Things are getting a little bit out of, not necessarily out of control, but you want more control, and this product will help you do that. So since we don't have any questions, we're going to go ahead and say goodbye to you all today, and we appreciate all of you coming to the webinar and appreciate your time. And everyone have a good day, including you, Don. We appreciate you spending some time with us today. Thank you so very much. And with that, we bid you all goodbye. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.